get started, Quinn.
Oh, okay. So when you think of where your cheeseburger comes from, I'm sure that a lot of you think this is probably what happened. It's a nice happy cow, you know, like running through the fields with its little cow friends and cow families, and then dying when it's old and mature enough in a humane way. And unfortunately, that is definitely not the case. My presentation is going to show you the reality of the meat industry and the effects on the earth, animals, and us humans. A factory farm is defined as a large industrial operation that raises large amounts of animals for food. And factory farms focus on profit and efficiency at the expense of animals' welfare. 99% of farm animals are raised on these factory farms, so that means 99% of where your meat is coming from is on these factory farms. Yeah, and these are just really dirty buildings where animal abuse is just standard practice. Next slide. Okay, the air in these factories are so unclean. They don't have time to obviously clean out all of these cages all the time, so their waste piles up and it ends up burning the animal's mouth and throat and skin and eyes. And the humans working in these factories often wear like these hazmat suits, and almost all of them wear at least masks. But then they don't have any real care for the animals that have to live in these awful conditions all the time. Factory farms use artificial lights for extra long hours of the day to promote faster growth. So the animals can survive in these disgusting conditions. They are injected with antibiotics and hormones, and I'll talk about this later, but these injections are really not good for us eating them. It's really, really bad. Okay, so this is it's like a 10-minute video, but it's super awesome. I love it. It's about this guy who used to be an undercover investigator and worked on tons of different factory farms, and he's now a lawyer that works on behalf of animals.
My name is Cody Carlson. I'm 31 years old, a husband, a dad, someone who tries to do the right thing when he can. This is my wife, Kim, and this is my daughter, Bo. Bo's almost 3, and she means everything to me. Like a lot of kids her age, she has limitless energy, curiosity, and love, especially for animals. I've always loved animals too. This is me at 13 with my best friend Pal. I remember reading back then about a fast food chain that was suing people for criticizing the conditions on the farms where they bought their meat. I remember wondering, why are they so afraid of people finding out the truth? Flash forward a few years, I come across this video taken undercover at a factory farm by a group called Mercy for Animals. I had never seen footage like that before. I didn't want to believe that things were really that bad. So I thought about it for a while and decided something. I'd become an undercover investigator myself. I'd get jobs at farms and wear a hidden camera to work each day to record what was going on around me. Above all, I was curious. I wanted to see if things on these farms were really as bad as they look in all those online videos. What I saw changed my life. And I know it's hard to watch, but I want you to please stick with me here so you can see what I saw and so you can know what everyone should know. One of the first jobs I had was at a pig farm. Pigs are some of the most intelligent animals on earth, even smarter than cats and dogs. Like dogs, they have dreams when they sleep at night. They understand their names and will come running when you call. They love a good belly rub, and once you're their friend, they'll remember you for years. But what I and my fellow investigators found when we went to work at dozens of pig farms was heartbreaking. Here's where most piglets are born, in filthy concrete pens inside giant, dark warehouses. This was Nicole. Sick and injured piglets like Nicole are left to suffer and slowly die. They get no veterinary attention. No one cares. No one tries to help them. When Nicole died, she was thrown away like garbage. Piglets who don't grow fast enough are killed by being slammed headfirst into the ground or by being gassed to death. The rest had their tails chopped off and their testicles cut out without any pain relief, all in front of the piglets' mothers, who struggled helplessly to stop it. Nicole's mom, like most other pigs, spent nearly her entire life locked in a metal cage so small she could literally not turn around. It sounds like a form of medieval torture, but factory farmers do it to millions of innocent pigs each year. Pigs often go insane, banging their heads against the bars or lying motionless on the ground. At just 6 months old, pigs are transported, stunned with electrical tongs, hung upside down, and have their throats slit. We investigated farm after farm all over the country. It didn't matter. All of these practices came standard. After working there, I knew that I would never eat pigs again, or any other animal. I understood now why millions of people have stopped eating meat. I understand why the amount of meat we eat is going down year after year. Because what's going on these farms, it can't continue. You want a better world for your kid. You want the world to be nice and beautiful. And it isn't always that way. But each of us has the choice to say, I am not going to be a part of that cruelty. I am not going to pay for it. If we don't pay for it, farmers won't breed those animals. So all that cruelty I just showed you, that goes away. Maybe not for all animals, but at least for some of them. And not just pigs. Chickens are surprisingly smart, and their personalities vary just like cats and dogs. Scientists have found that they think about the future and pass knowledge down to their chicks. Plus, let's be honest, they're also super cute. But what I and my fellow investigators saw when we went to work at major hatcheries, egg farms, and poultry farms is almost beyond belief. This is a typical egg industry hatchery, and these are workers separating the boy chicks from the girls. And this is Ryan. Because boys like Ryan will never lay eggs, he was of no use to the egg industry. So Ryan was dropped, alive and fully conscious, into a giant grinding machine at just a few days old. This was like seeing something straight out of a horror film, only it was real.
Okay, so here's the deal. It's very difficult to watch, as I mean, Tori's upset. I mean, it's hard for me too. We're just going to stop the video there so Quinn can move on with the information, but that's real life. I mean, that's why Quinn's been crying while she's been doing this, but oops. We'll move on. Just means you have a heart.
Okay, so I'm going to elaborate a little more on chickens in these farms. Chickens are among the most abused animals in these factory farms, and from hatching to slaughter, egg-laying hens are subjected to mutilation, confinement, and the inability to be the sociable and active animals that they are. Because male chicks don't lay eggs, 260 million are killed each year upon hatching. And the methods for these killings are being sucked through a pipe and then dropped onto a kill plate, which is just like blades. It's so awful. And then the other way, they're dumped into this grinder that's called a macerator while they're fully conscious. Chickens are debeaked at a young age to prevent feather pecking, and this is not normal and does not happen in nature, but it's the result of the stress and confinement they experience in the factory farms. Chicken beaks are filled with nerve endings, and so obviously when they're cut off without any painkillers, it's extremely painful and oftentimes causes chronic pain which lasts for long periods of time. So the chickens in these cages have about the size of a piece of paper. That's all they get, and they're much larger animals than that, so they're constantly rubbing up against each other in the cages, which causes feather loss and abrasions and bruises. It's really awful. And they're always standing on the wires, and their little claws, it's not comfortable at all to always be standing on that. Chickens can be denied food for up to 2 weeks to help speed along the egg-laying process, which is called forced molting. And that's very, very common and not okay, and it's completely legal. Chickens and birds are immune from the Humane Slaughter Act. And the Humane Slaughter Act is exactly what it sounds like. It's laws to there's no regulations in place to make sure that chickens or other birds will die safely and humanely. Their whole lives are filled with torture, and then their deaths are just the same. It's really sad. I don't know, there's another video about chickens. I like it because it we don't have to watch it, but it just kind of shows you in real life what is happening, and not just me talking about it. But we don't have to watch it. Okay, so you probably don't think of a farm where you get your meat from as any contributor at all to the environmental crisis that we're going through right now, but actually factory farms contribute more to the world's climate change than cars, trains, and automobiles, all of them in the world combined. The factory farms contribute more. Factory farms are an extremely large contributor to climate change, but also air pollution and water pollution as well. Farms produce millions of gallons of manure that spill into waterways when they're over-applied to soil and also stuck in these lagoons. They're really gross. There's one on along Highway 73. It's just like a pit, and they just put the manure in there. It's really, really disgusting. The Food and Water Watch estimates that in 2012, just the largest factory farms produced 269 million tons of manure in just 1 year, and that's in 2012. And factory farms are growing so much each year. So, 269 million tons is enough to fill the Dallas Cowboys Stadium 133 times with manure. That's crazy. When this manure is over-applied to soil and put in these pits, it gets into the water and fills it with different pollutants, and it's super bad for you. Manure releases a gas called methane, which is 20% worse than any fossil fuels being burned. Just last year, actually, Bailey's Farm in Marshall was fined $28,000 for dumping feces and decomposing animal matter into the Monashau River. Small farms are able to fertilize their crops in a more unharmful way, and the difference between factory farms and smaller farms is the scale. Obviously, there's so much more animals on the factory farms that it's impossible to really deal with them in the right way. So you've all heard about the drought in California, and I know it's not, bless you, very relevant to us here in Wisconsin, but people are trying to conserve water in any way that they can. They're avoiding showering sometimes. They're washing their dishes by hand and fixing leaky faucets because, every single drop of water counts. And you wouldn't really think that eating a hamburger would contribute at all to that. But it really does. A pound of meat is equal to 2,400 gallons of water. That's how much it takes to produce just 1 pound of meat. And so you'd actually save more water by not showering for 6 months than eating 1 pound, just 1 pound of meat. Just cutting back 1 pound of meat instead of not showering for 6 months. Just cutting back on meat can help lead to a safer environment and cleaner water. Okay, cows in the dairy industry are given growth hormones to increase milk production, and then once these cows are unable to produce more milk, they're slaughtered for their meat. And these hormones that they're given are known to significantly increase breast cancer, prostate cancer, and colon cancer, which I know that study recently came out, and it's so true. Cancer is, the risk of cancer goes so much more up when you eat meat. And so 70% of antibiotics that are given to animals on these factory farms are non-therapeutic, which means they are given so the animals can grow faster, produce more eggs and milk. And using antibiotics this way can help lead to drug-resistant bacteria that's untreatable to antibiotics. And according to the CDC, antibiotic-resistant infections kill 23,000 Americans a year, and 2 million Americans a year are infected with them. Poor sanitation and waste management, which we talked about earlier with like the pits, leads to bacteria like E. coli and Salmonella, and each year 76 million Americans suffer a foodborne illness. And some diseases can transfer from animal to human, like the avian flu or the swine flu. And experts believe that the H1N1 virus was caused by overcrowding pigs on factory farms. Our next one. Alright, so what can you do? I hope that after watching this and learning just like a small portion about this industry, you guys want to help a little. And so a way you can do that is avoiding Tyson, Wendy's, KFC, Smithfield Food, and Domino's Pizza. They have some of the worst animal abuse on their factory farms. Tyson is like the worst. They treat their chickens awfully. It's so bad. And then they sell to Wendy's and KFC, and they used to sell to McDonald's, but they were busted for it and are changing their ways. But yeah, so these people have been confronted and have no plans on changing what they do. So I guess like buying their stuff is like paying them to continue to treat these animals this way. Brands like Whole Foods and Chipotle all have a stricter, more humane standard for the way that the farms have to treat their meat. So those are some good places to buy. And then I have a really quick video, it's like 2 minutes, on how together we can all help stop these awful factory farms and make the world a much better place to live in.
Over the past half a century, factory farming has become the leading cause of animal cruelty. 2 minutes from now, you'll know how we are going to end it. Factory farming has turned living, breathing animals into production units. Our appetite for meat and eggs has led to animals being crammed into smaller and smaller spaces. When factory farms cut costs to turn a bigger profit, animals pay the price. But if factory farming is so cruel, isn't the government doing something to stop it? Tragically, no. Powerful industry lobbies oppose any laws that would end factory farming or make it less cruel. But we don't need the government to end factory farming. We can do it ourselves. Factory farms only exist because people buy their products. Retailers decide what to sell based on what we buy. If we don't buy it, retailers don't stock it. And if retailers don't stock it, there's no demand. And if there's no demand, factory farms have to change their practices. Every time you refuse factory-farmed products, you send a strong message about how you think animals should be treated. By choosing to eat fewer animal products, you can help reduce the demand that has turned farms into factories. More and more people are choosing to adopt plant-based diets so they can be sure that no animals were harmed. It's as simple as that. We can end factory farming. All we have to do is make better choices. People can't make better choices unless they know what's going on. And they won't know what's going on unless we tell them. Time is ticking, and we need your help to spread the word.
There's no way. What? It is, you guys, that's hard to watch. I mean, does anybody, truly, be honest. I don't care if I eat bacon again in my life. And I couldn't even watch. Like but I'm an animal. I swerve to avoid squirrels, anything in the road. I'd rather hit a house than hit a squirrel. But that kills me. Kill Tori. It's hard. Do you know where the top ones are? The top farms?
Well, Tyson, they have a bunch of plants. I don't know where they are. I think one was in Idaho that got really smashed, and they got someone was undercover videotaping them and released all this footage onto a documentary. But they're everywhere, yeah.
Is there other ways that they can get the meat instead of torturing them?
Well,
if there was an injection or something that I don't know.
Like painkillers? They do
Yeah,
have
that-
painkillers. They could give them anesthetics, but they don't because it's expensive and it takes up. There's so many chickens, so many on these factory farms. So one thing that you could do is make sure that you get your meat from like a smaller farm, and they have obviously less animals, so they can, you know, care and tend to each one a lot better than tons of chickens and then, you know.
What about for like fish and stuff, like on
Yeah.
farm raised stuff?
In that video, at the end of it, they talked about fish and how they feel pain just like other animals do. They
Yeah.
just don't have vocal cords to scream and,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
show
why I feel
that
like
they're
better
in
to get
pain.
like wild caught than like
Yeah,
farm raised.
right,
You know?
right.
Yeah.
Jack?
When you're shopping, like at the grocery store, for example, what are some like brands or some just some things to look for?
Well, the thing is, like, if you're going to like Walmart, you're probably not going to find
Oh, yeah.
any meat that really is treated very well at all. Yeah, I was looking for certain brands, and none of them that I found were really, I've never seen before. They're all like, you know, organic. And Whole Foods has really, really great options, and they make sure that all of their brands that they stock have like a strict standard of how they, you know, raise their meat. So I would suggest that.
So it's like the companies, I guess, that decide what.
Yeah, so the factory farms farm the animals, and then there's these companies that buy the meat from them, you know, so it's like they decide where they buy their meat from, but the factory farms decide how they treat their meat and the animals.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, does organic like make a difference in like how the meat is?
Organic usually means that they are given less injections and that, but I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the ethical treatment of the
Yeah.
animals, you
Yeah.
know? I don't know. Yeah.
Does anybody in here shop and buy organic? Do your parents or whomever buy organic? Anyone? Jack, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, so,
Yeah.
and companies, factories, these Tyson, for example, they have a stranglehold on us because we like our chicken, right? We like our chicken, it's exactly healthy for you, but if you saw parts of the video, I don't know if that was the way they, I can't even talk about the way that they raise chickens, like how big their breasts get.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
that's like-
There's like this picture that shows from like 1950 to now. Chickens they've made them get so huge and they can't walk because their skeletons can't hold this crushing weight that they have. And so their legs break and a lot of them die because they can't reach the food or the water, so they're just sitting there dead with broken legs because they're so huge. Yeah, they just make them ginormous.
Because you want, you know, we like the white meat, the breast meat, so that sounds joking. Their breasts are so big, they fall over, they can't walk, their legs break, but we can't afford to buy organic. We can, but we choose not to, right?
Yeah,
So is it like injecting them with like steroids or something
Yeah.
pretty much?
These antibiotics, because they have to survive in such terrible conditions. So if you want to get it from start to finish, you jack them up with all these antibiotics to make sure that they're healthy enough to survive their death. And then we ingest that.
yeah, and I think it's like a big deal that America has such a meat culture that we eat it 3 meals a day for snacks also, and we can't do that anymore. Like the earth cannot handle that. These poor animals, these factories are growing and growing each year. It's just, you really want to contribute to that 3 times a day, plus like cheese and sausage for snacks. Like it's something that you have to think about.
How do you think Chick-fil-A is there?
Oh, Chick-fil-A's awful. I was gonna put that up there, but I didn't think anyone ate there. They buy
I
from.
love Chick-fil-A.
No,
Not anymore, you don't.
they're really bad. Like those chickens that were in that video that you saw a little bit, that's how they treat theirs. But like the worst kind. Like they are left there to die, and then, yeah,
Really?
yeah. I think they buy their food from Tyson too. I'm not sure.
I love my Wendy's spicy chicken.
Yeah, Wendy's is bad.
I'll never have it. I just had one this weekend. I'll never do it again.
Good.
Oh.
I can't, that stuff sticks with me, it'll stick with me for a while, and then will I forget, and I want my spicy chicken, or, but that's the thing, that's the hard part.
Yeah. So what happened with like Chipotle, like the thing with them like having horse meat or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, they got in trouble. They used like horse meat. They got in trouble a few years ago, like 5 years ago maybe.
But it wasn't here. But now something else happened. Like,
Yeah.
like
E. coli
Yeah.
E. coli. Yeah.
So like,
Oh yeah.
they got in big trouble for like their meat, and then so they were like, okay, we can't have this anymore. And now they have really strict guidelines for their meat, and I think they do something with like the hormones and antibiotics. They don't give them a certain kind or amount. But then they had an E. coli breakout. But I'm not sure if I looked it up, and they said they didn't know if it was in the meat or like some vegetable or something. But yeah.
Where does like McDonald's get their?
They got theirs from Tyson for a long time, but McDonald's was under the list of companies that are trying to change and move forward and not use as abuse. Yeah,
How does buying eggs like?
it's a lot. I told you about the egg-laying chickens. They're treated awfully. They're put in that cage, those battery cages. They're like this big, all just wires, and they fit like 8 into there, and they're all their life. That's all that it is, and the eggs drop, and that's all that they care about, getting the eggs, and yeah, it's bad. I think the egg-laying chickens are probably the most abused of all the animals.
Well, then they had a disease, so they had to slaughter millions of chickens. So then just think you have to make up for that. That's why if you guys buy eggs, I eat eggs every morning. That's what I eat, egg whites, every
But
morning.
it's kind of easy to find eggs that are, local.
Yeah,
like
I will
a lot of
those.
people.
Don't you guys? All right, I'm in. But I mean, yeah, every morning I eat 3 egg whites. Yeah, but they're expensive, so
Right.
eggs at the store, if you guys pay attention, they're like $2.50, $3 a carton. You can get them at Quick Trip for $1.59, so that's my stop, but yeah, that makes you rethink things. And that's why you do this. That's why, that's why you were crying, that's why you cried your way through this.
It's like because I have chickens and they're just.
And you don't treat them that way, right?
No. And
Okay.
like we have our own homegrown eggs. Like we have goats and everything. And it's.
And you can't imagine treating them. I know, but these people that work there, why do they do it?
It's fast and efficient, and it's how they can make the meat and eggs so cheap because they.
Money, that's why they do it. Any other questions for Quinn? Sky?
What restaurants are some of the worst?
Well, I don't know.
We can
Well,
look
I mean, Wendy's, yeah, you guys can like research that, like brands that are really, really, I tried to do that. Just like a lot of fast food is not good because theirs really cheap and they want, so I guess just try and avoid fast food restaurants. And like, I mean, when you go out, I try and like just maybe not order like a prime or like, try and maybe just cut back as much as you can. Like it's just.
So I'm having D-dubs tomorrow.
Well, that's
I
the
know,
thing.
it's so sad and all.
I don't even want to know about chicken wings. Fast food, why are they the biggest offenders, you guys?
Because they sell their food for the cheapest and there's a great demand.
In mass quantities, right? I mean, look at McDonald's, 8 billion hamburgers a day, blah, blah, blah. I mean, even though McDonald's are the good guys. Are you done?
Yeah, it's actually not.
Like in